Welcome to another week of Connect with Jonathan Mark. I have such a great guest for you. You may know him from the hit show The Rookie or his hit podcast, He Said Ella Dijo. It's Eric Winter. Let's jump right into it. Hey, thank you for coming on. I know I just came on to from your podcast, which is He Said Ella Dijo. Did I say it right? I was practicing all morning. I was like, God, I don't know if I said it right. Did I do
close? That was close. Well, if my wife was here, she probably would have cringed, but I'm fine because I don't speak. It's Dijo.
Oh, Dijo. See, my fiance, she's Colombian, so her side of the family.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I always try to speak a little bit with them, and they always roll their eyes like, oh my God, this kid is embarrassing. So I'm trying.
It's so funny because, I've been with a Puerto Rican for 19 years, and they always want you to speak Spanish. Then when you try, they make fun of you, and you're like, well, you're terrible. It's like, of course I'm terrible.
No, that's been happening. So I started dating her 4.5 years ago. And I kind of knew my place. I was like, all right, I'm not going to even try because they're speaking about me. And I knew they were speaking about me in Spanish because they kept looking at me and talking. So then eventually I told my fiance, I was like, I'm going to start learning this so I can kind of understand a little bit of your family. And when I tried, her grandmother, her mom, her aunts, her uncles were like, oh my God, what is he doing?
It's tough, bro. Let me tell you, I'm still not even close, not even a fraction. I'm not bilingual at all. I can understand more than I can speak. I've taken Spanish lessons. I've had teachers come to the house. I've been at school 4 different times as an adult. It's so hard to pick up a language as an adult, especially if you've never had any other secondary language.
Right.
And Spanish, I think, is tough. I've asked her family. It's like learning Spanish, I think, is harder for an English speaker than a Spanish speaker learning English. The phrasing's reversed. There's, articles are masculine, feminine. It's tricky.
Yep. And they talk so fast. For me, so I'm trying to I can understand a few words, but then they just go and go. I'm like, wait a minute, go back 3 sentences. I'm like, and it happens in 30 seconds. It was crazy. And then I don't know if your wife's family is spiritual and stuff, because I know my fiance's family, they were very religious. They weren't spiritual, in the sense of mediums. Yeah. So it was a big adjustment for all of them. And now they're my biggest fans, the biggest fans, ones I probably didn't even want to ask for at this point, but amazing people. But they were very religious. And, when I did this, everyone always says prove it. So I had to read my fiance's grandma, straight from Colombia, barely speaks English. I mean, maybe I can understand 3 words. Maybe. I always smile, go, yep. Without trying to be disrespectful or anything. And then I guess she just left and she's like, what the heck just happened? She said in Spanish, obviously, because the mom called and she's like, I don't know what you said. And because she's a tough woman. I mean, I would the fact that I got a tear from her, and she said she didn't cry, but I saw her mascara and it was all down the side of her face, but she was claiming that she didn't cry. She's like, I didn't cry. She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, oh my God.
That is funny.
I'm like, I'm not battling. But anyway, I just want to say thank you for coming on. And I also wanted to tell you too, I watched the show The Rookie, I definitely watched it. And dude, you crush it, the cop. You crush it, man. Yeah, you do such a good job with that character. I was sitting there and I was with a bunch of my guys that I'm friends with from the NYPD, and they're like, he does it so well. They're like, this is how it is. They're like, this is exactly how it is. It was awesome, man. I'm so impressed.
I appreciate that,
impressed, man.
We went through a lot of training. We have great advisors on the show as well that are former LAPD, and but we did go through some training. I've been to the academy a couple of times. We've done shooting. We've done VR simulations where we're put in scenarios, and we've gotten to learn so much over 7 seasons. And I do, in a weird way, it's I'll even walk around now in my daily life and feel like I'm thinking like a cop sometimes. And I'm like, dude, you're not a cop. You don't have you have nowhere to stand in this. But I'm so used to it now. It's funny. I'm walking in situations oh, this is not good. That's high risk. But it's a trip, and it's been a very fun character to play. He was very complex and he's got a lot of baggage, and he's the hard ass of the whole show, but he's got this heart of gold. When you peel back the layers, he's a great guy. So it's been very fun as an actor.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you how challenging getting into that character in the beginning before you're on your seventh season now. So I'm sure you kind of adjusted with the character as season goes on, but to get into that character, and like I said, the people that I was with that are NYPD, like detectives, homicide detectives, they were all telling me that they watched the show and their favorite character is you. So like, yeah. So it was really cool. It was really, really cool. I was like, yeah, I'm speaking to them on Friday. I'm like, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, by the way, I don't take that lightly. Like, that's one of my favorite things to ever hear is when cops are actually telling me, you're my favorite character. And I appreciate you. I've had training officers reach out to me and, fan messages and say like, dude, you're nailing it as a training officer. This is exactly what it's like. And it means a ton to get that kind of affirmation and feedback about the work I'm put in, and it wasn't easy. It's funny, when I first auditioned for this role, I had worked with a bunch of producers that were part of a different project before that were on The Rookie. And I thought, okay, I can get an offer on this job. And they all basically said, no, like, we know you as a person and you're just too nice. Like, you're not this guy. You would not play a hard ass cop who has all this baggage and is damaged and is mean to people. Like, that's just not you. And I'm like, guys, it's acting. Like, I can do this character. So I remember having such a chip on my shoulder and going into the very first audition and being in, I don't know how to describe it. It kind of could be maybe in a way like when you zone in on something when in your work, but it's like the air in the room was very still. And I just remember like the energy shift in what was going on. And I've had a few moments like this in my career where it was so powerful and so recognizable. And I just zoned in a way that was so deep in this audition, got one little note and started bawling in my second scene, which was part of the character. And everybody was just like, holy, this is not what we expected. And I remember them even checking on me afterwards. Like, are you okay? And it's like, yeah, I was acting. And, got them all to, be fans. And thankfully the creator was always supportive from that first read and had to go through a few more, hurdles beyond there, but it fell my way luckily. And we haven't looked back. So it's been good.
Yeah, it's amazing because I like watch obviously the show and my friends and everyone. And the biggest takeaway that I got from like the similarity, aside from majority of it, is the baggage that you bring home. It's like you play that very well. It's like how like you have like the baggage and you have all that. And then sometimes you bring it to work. Like, sometimes like I think people as, seeing my friends like that are still officers and, whatever, they take their baggage to work and sometimes they, make mistakes here and there because it's like their mind is somewhere else or they, there's a lot that goes into that. I don't think, now that I think you have such a good grasp on it because you play it so well, like it's so hard to protect and then not bring like personal things like from your past or whatever like mixed in together. It's a crazy world. It's like a crazy, crazy world. And the fact that you had LAPD helping you, they're like one of the best too. So it's like incredible.
I have so much respect for law enforcement now that I didn't really understand before. I always joke with people. It's like, after doing this job too, it's like people don't like cops until you need a cop. And then everybody loves cops. Like firefighters never get a bad rap. Like everybody loves a firefighter, right? They're always saving the day. Everything's always positive.
Yeah.
Police, it's like, well, obviously there's a negative. They can arrest you. You do something wrong. Nobody looks at that. You could, be speeding. You could do something. I got a ticket. Like everybody's mad about cops. But their job is so difficult and they have to walk such a fine line every day. They're serving the community the best of their ability. They are human beings that have families and they go home and they're good people. And they deal with such a weight of everybody always judging them because they're getting speeding tickets, or they're arresting people for doing wrong. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, they're trying to make the community a better place. And they have a very tough job. It's not easy. Their life's on the line every single day.
How is it like balancing like working? Because I've never worked on a TV show, so this is like a actual like genuine question. Like TV show and personal life, is that like so hard to like separate?
At times it can be challenging, right? Like we have an incredible fandom on our show. They're one of the best fandoms. I'm the best fandom I've ever been a part of, but I truly think one of the best fandoms ever in television. But often they blur the lines. Like they don't realize, okay, I'm a human. I go home to a family. I have a wife, and they love my love story on the show. But they often mistake the fact that like that's not my real girlfriend. Like I have a wife, and that stuff can be a little bit tricky at times to navigate. But again, I am so grateful to fans all the time. So I love giving them props constantly because we would not have a show if it weren't for the fandom that follows us and supports us. And I would say that part can be tricky. Shifting it off for me, going home to my family, it's very easy. When I'm at work, I can dial it in and focus on my character, and then when I wrap, I go home and I'm doing my own thing. I'm with my family.
Right.
I juggle multiple things as well. My wife and I have a production company. We're trying to develop all the time to produce different content for television and film. She's directing a movie right now. I started a rum company on top of all this. So I've been dealing with that.
Yeah, I see that everywhere. I see you've been posting it, and I'm like so curious. How did the name come? When did you come up with it? Like, how was that process? It looks very tasty. By the way.
That was wild because, man, I mean, that's totally outside my element. You know, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I find myself investing in things and trying to be it in certain ways, but I've never started something from the ground up. And a couple of years ago, you know, my wife being Puerto Rican, rum is such a big deal in Puerto Rico. That's when I first fell in love with it. We've been together 19 years. I met my now in-laws, and they poured me a glass of, I'll never forget, Bacardi Ocho Años, and said, let's have some rum and talk. And I was going, I'm not a rum drinker. Like, I was a vodka drinker. Mm-hmm. And I sipped on it. I was like, well, this is actually a pretty damn good spirit. You know, it's a lot more complex than I thought. And you start realizing, you know, premium rum is not Captain Morgan. It's not nothing wrong with those rums, but it's not the rum that Americans often associate with just rum and Coke or pina colada or whatever, right? Premium rum is very much can be like a whiskey or a bourbon. And it is for, you know, South Americans and Caribbean people, you know? So a couple of years ago, my wife and I said, I think I'm going to do something in this space, and tequila's out of control. And I'm not a big tequila guy anyway, for me. And I love rum. So we ventured out to try to partner with a distillery in Puerto Rico. It became a little challenging. And I met my now partner, who was also going down the road, developing a rum. And we teamed up. We had Palm Republic come together, decided on the name and what it sort of spoke to us as far as it felt very tropical. And it's like we wanted to build a republic of people that were all about rum. And we went through, you know, it's a blend of Jamaica, Panama, USVI. So we had to bring in all these different rums from different regions, which I started learning, you know, through the process. The way they distill in Jamaica is totally different than what they do in Panama. Some are columns, some are pot stills. It brings in different flavors, notes. And we worked with this master distiller at Diageo who does whiskeys and bourbons.
That's where my fiance works.
At Diageo?
Yep. She works at Diageo. Yep.
No way. We'll talk more about that. Yeah. Offline for sure. Yeah. So yeah, our master distiller worked there at the time. Now he's with Pernod Ricard, and he helped us come up with the blend of these rums, and we overproofed it. It very much sips like a bourbon or whiskey, funny enough. No added flavor, no added color, which to me was super important. And what I've learned is so many spirits do. They add so much stuff because if it's under 2%, you don't have to disclose it. Right. So we wanted to do a pure product that tasted great, and we launched in, I think it was June. Now it's been crazy.
This past June?
Yeah, we just launched.
Oh my God, I've been seeing it.
So we're direct to consumer.
Okay.
Posting about it. Yeah, we're direct to consumer on our website, palmrepublicrum.com. But then we also are in Florida. That's our big key market that we're doing, you know, bars, hotels, restaurants, on-premise, off-premise, all that. We have quite a few key placements in California already, but we're not opening that market out the gate because it's a slow crawl. You got to really build unless you're coming in just financially heavy.
Right, of course. And it's funny because my parents bought a place in Florida, and my fiance's parents are in Florida, and it's heavy rum there. I mean, like, we went to a local distillery. Yeah, we literally went to like a local rum distillery that was like in the middle of nowhere in Florida, and I learned about rum. And my fiance, she's like now like a little alcohol snob because she works at Diageo, and she's been there for like a few years. So she's like correcting. She's like, it's called Spirit, all right? It's not called like whatever. And I'm like, okay, like, yeah, it's cool. She loves her job, and I've learned a lot from her from that. But kind of what you were saying, like the alcohol industry, I'm assuming must be like so difficult to navigate just because there's so many regulations, rules, this, that, like for each state, I'm sure it's different. I'm assuming, I don't know. And you are right. Like, I do think the tequila side, like there's so many people that are just doing tequila. I love rum. When I think of vacation, when I think of hanging by my pool, it's rum. It's not tequila for me. That's what I would get on vacation in Florida and stuff. So It makes so much sense. Like, honestly,
and that's the messaging we're going with. It's like, take you back on vacation, right? It's paradise in a glass. We want to, and we want to premiumize it. You know, ours is a premium rum that the bottle's hip, the bottle's cool. We want it to stand out from this old notion of the pirates and the dirty, you know, the maps and old people on bottles and dark bottles. Ours looks very Art Deco Miami, and it pops. It makes it fun and feel cool but approachable. And that's been like our whole mission.
Are you with Diageo? Or is that just someone who you worked with was at Diageo?
No, Diageo that was who we worked with through a relationship to help formulate the blend. I mean, that would be the goal at some point, that Diageo acquires us down the road. You know what I mean? That's like the big wish in the pond, right? The hope that happens at some point. But we're going to build towards that. That's the goal.
I wanted to ask you also, like, what has been like one of the most challenging roles that you've like taken on? Has it been Tim in The Rookie, or?
I would say in a large way, he is one of the most complex characters for sure that I've taken on, because I've never been with a character that's started completely one way and evolved so much over 7 seasons. I mean, probably the biggest growth of any character on our show, to be honest, like personal growth, because he was such a different human when we started the show. I mean, hated by people, did not like his character there. Then you meet my ex-wife and you go, oh, okay, wait, I understand. The guy's got some serious baggage. And then you start to unpack him and you realize his upbringing was tough and he was ex-military and all these different things, and his dad. It's been a very, very challenging but fun role to just grow at the pace of the writing and grow over the seasons and make him stay fresh and unique and also true to who he is while showing all these different layers, So I'd say he's probably up there in one of the top. I had a pilot I did years ago that got canceled that Hugh Jackman produced and was actually in. This was before movie stars were even doing television, where I had to sing and I had to dance. And I loved this project. And I really wish it would have lasted some amount of time, but we were canceled after 2 episodes on CBS. And I'm not a singer or dancer. So for me to have to learn all that was a hell of a challenge. So that's up there as well, in that scope. And I think I've done some movies where comedy was involved, and I love comedy, but that's always a fun challenge.
Yeah.
I think it's so hard to make people laugh, genuinely make people laugh. Harder than making somebody cry, I think.
Do you have any projects coming up that like you're taking some of the experience from these characters and bringing it to these future projects that you're doing?
No, a lot of them are different. I just did a little part in the movie my wife is directing. I play a chef. And it was the hardest part for that was I speak Spanish in it, and for various scenes. I speak mostly English, but probably let's say 20% Spanish, 80% English, and it was hard. Those little bits of Spanish I had to do.
Sure.
Acting in Spanish was totally different than just trying to figure it out when I'm on vacation, where the camera's on you and other Spanish actresses are staring at you, Spanish speaking actresses I should say, and are staring at you, and you have to react off what they're saying, and you don't understand it. That was a very challenging situation, but fun in a great way. And I'm working on a movie I'm putting together as well for my hiatus, a comedy. I say true romantic comedy. It's a relationship comedy about an open marriage, which I think will be a lot of fun. It's gonna be interesting. So yeah, working on that, and that's about it right now at the moment. We're shooting until like January with The Rookie.
Oh, you are? It's going that long? What did you guys just like resume? I'm assuming we
started in June and we do 18 episodes. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a big season. That's a big season. Oh my God, God bless you. That must be like so much time going in, coming back, going in and coming back. Wow, and it's 7 seasons too. That's what I find so incredible. And about your fandom, like you're talking about, like, have you had any experiences in like person where like certain lines were blurred? Like you were talking about how like people sometimes think the screen is reality and not reality is reality, kind of. So I'm curious now.
Yeah.
Have you had any?
I haven't had any uncomfortable ones. I mean, fans are usually in person, respectful for sure for the most part, and very kind. I mean, I've signed some funny things. I've had people put tattoos of me on them, really? Tattoos of things that I've written, tattoos of images from me from the show. And they've sent them in like fan messages showing like the full tattoo. It's like, I'm like, wow, I'm on your body forever. So it's a trip in that regard. Now,
when you are doing the filming with like, and I know we spoke about this, so you were saying you kind of like walk around like, that about the police officer stuff. Do you like go into like a situation? Because this just happened to me, and this is the only reason why I'm asking. I was with my mom yesterday in the city. We're in Grand Central, and I don't know if you know in Grand Central, but like the escalators are like vertical and they're like very long. So every time we're going, I kept looking back just to see, and my mom's like, you're not like a cop anymore. You don't have to like look around your surroundings. She's like, you're just so like up, like looking around and just like figuring things out. Like, she's like, we're on an escalator. You can relax. Like nothing's gonna like happen. So I'm wondering if you do the same thing now too. I do in a weird way. When I'm at work, even if we're walking around in between scenes, I'm in full uniform, which also doesn't help because you feel like you're a cop. I mean, I'm the only one I think that wears a fake bulletproof vest on top of it. So it's like I look very much, all jacked up with the vest on and all that too. I definitely walk around with that sort of mindset a lot when I'm
even not filming, but in uniform. But even like I said, when I get in weird, I don't say weird, but like large crowd situations, I always find my fake police brain kicking in accidentally, because these advisors have taught me so much, and I've learned just a ton through the training and everything else, that it makes me think a little bit differently.
I will say this, it's definitely not fake, because you actually spoke into real people, and you went, like you said, to the academy. Like, that's more than a lot of people have done, in my opinion. So it's not fake at all. I really believe that, like, when stuff hits the fan, like, you would be the right person to respond. You have that like, you went through the training. You even went to the academy for LAPD, just like, I'm sure, to do some stuff there and whatever. It's still like so much more than the normal person has done, in my opinion. So I think
I've done 3 ride-alongs as well.
See, like, that's even 10 times more than a normal person would have done. So, like, did you see anything on the ride-alongs, actually? I wanted to ask.
One of them was very, very lax. That one was actually super chill. Just a lot of talking to the cops. We got no action. The other one, we thought we were going to get action quite a few times in an area that should have. Didn't get too crazy. I mean, I learned some stuff, but it wasn't anything massive. But one in particular, we had a couple big arrests, and then we had an intense one, which we actually emulated a bit on an episode of the show, where I was with the director of the pilot, and I was in the back seat, which is, I also know it's not bulletproof. The front seats have bulletproof doors, the backs don't. So we pulled up into this area where the sergeant driving us was like, this is like the notorious gang neighborhood. And I'm like, all right, cool, let's just go check it out. So we go drive through, and there happens to be like the streets getting more and more narrow, because cars are like double parked into the street. And I guess it was their big corporate gang night, like where they all hang out and celebrate the gang. And they threw a massive party. And this cop felt compelled to pull up to the party. I mean, a bunch of homies sitting outside the house, like stacked up, drinking, bunch in the house. And he felt compelled to tell them to basically get all these cars out of here. He's coming back with his boys. And at that moment, you could see all of the gang members sort of posture up. There's a respect. There's a tug of war respect between the cops and the gang members, right? It's almost like a weird symbiotic relationship that everybody's doing the best they can at their job, the cops and the gangs, while not getting too much trouble, but like things still happen to try to keep the peace. And you could just feel this moment where all these gang members were not thrilled that this cop did that, and they all started to posture up, and all of them are packing something, and it's just him with us, and you felt like the air gets sucked out of the car. And I was like, this is bad, to the point that the sergeant even pulled his gun and had it at the door. So if he had it at the door, he knew the stakes were higher than he wanted. And as soon as we went to pull away, another car full of gang members kind of pinned us in, and then they moved and accommodated for us to get out, thankfully. And within seconds, he called on the phone, on the radio. We pulled this is what's crazy. We pulled within a Church's Chicken. Within 5 minutes, there were probably 30 cops. 30 cop cars, like just boom. I mean, we had a boatload of officers coming in because they stacked up, and they said, airship came over, and they said, all right, are you guys comfortable going back in with us to clear out that house? And we're like, what? We don't have vests on. But we're like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll go with you guys. We'll stay at a certain distance. And they're mapping out the game plan, how we're going to break in, how we're going to go through, and we're going to hop over this and whatever. And they're drawing. I get recognized from a movie of the cops. I'm taking selfies with all this in the back of the cop car with everybody. And then all of a sudden, we're about to go do the raid, so to speak, and we get radioed in that all the gang members left. They listened to that cop. They all took their cars and they drove off to a different location. Yeah, they respected it.
I could definitely say,
but it was that it got that escalated.
Yeah, like I feel like I would be panicking even if I was an officer, because when you go to like those types of calls, you don't know what's going to happen like next, really. Like at least when you go to like a DWI or something, you can kind of gauge like a little bit of like what you're going to deal with. But if you're going to a place like that, you just don't know what the next move will be, because sometimes, yeah, I'm sure you've heard stories too, like people will leave and then they come back and they pin people within an area. So they leave to come back to like circle the perimeter of people, and it's their neighborhood. Yeah. So they know it probably a little bit better than like I would or anyone would. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, for sure. And you also don't know what any of these, what any of the men out there, what they're facing, right? Like do they have anything to lose? It might be like, hey, if you're not taking me down, if you take me down, I'm going to shoot. If they have nothing to lose, then you're in a bad situation with one cop.
I ask my friends that are still like officers, I'm like, do you get scared still going to calls? And they're like, every day. They're like, every day. Because like, you don't know. You don't know when you swing open that door, what's behind that door. Like, you just don't know. Male, female, whoever. You don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wild story. Was your wife okay with it? I'm like, I can't like.
No, she was not. She was not happy when I told the story after the fact. I remember being in the car going, "Oh my God, I have a wife, I have kids, and what am I doing?" And I'm like, it's just trapped. I didn't want to text her or radio or anything because I don't want to freak out. I'm going to call her. So after the fact, she was like, "Yeah, what were you doing? Why'd you even do that? You're a fake cop."
I don't know.
Yeah, but it was cool.
I wanted to ask you, kind of veering back onto the like rookie show, was there any particular person that was your favorite to like collaborate with on the show, to like do a scene with, or like?
Yeah, let me think. I mean, look, our whole cast, we have a phenomenal rapport.
Right.
So I love doing scenes with everybody on the show. We actually are very fortunate because that's not always the case.
Right.
People truly get along and enjoy working together. But we've had some amazing cameos. My buddy Mario Lopez came on the show, and we did a fun scene with him, which was great. Pete Davidson's been on the show multiple times. He's been fun to work with. Another Long Island guy, right? So he's been on.
Yeah, Pete Davidson, like, I just saw like just like a random interview with him, and I didn't, I guess, including myself, like, you see people on a screen, you don't know that they're a real human at times. Like, you kind of feel like when you're on TV and you're doing this, your life is just like amazing. And then he opened up about how like that's not the case for like a lot of people that are like in your position, like shooting shows and doing stuff. Like, people are real and they face real life like anxieties or whatever they're going through. And I thought that was really eye-opening, just because I think people view especially him as a comedian who like jokes about himself with things. Do you know if he takes himself seriously? You don't. And like I'm saying, like you, your wife, and everyone that are on TV, like people sometimes, I always say that term, like blur the line, like if knowing if that's real, and if you have like this like same type of life on the other side behind the screen. So I think that's kind of amazing that like you're able to kind of like turn a switch off, right? Like you're able to kind of like get back into like work mode. And I think sometimes people don't know how to do that, including myself. I don't. If I'm going out somewhere, sometimes it's hard for me not to pick up messages for people. And like, as much as like I don't want to be that person, because I don't want to be that person to be like blah, blah, blah is here.
Let me ask you this. I'm actually curious about this for you. I just thought about this. I should ask you this on our podcast, on my podcast. If you have a drink, right? Or let's say you have a couple drinks and you're a little bit buzzed, does your gift change?
It comes stronger. Yeah. And the reason why is because like when I do these readings, and like I was saying before, like I have to be careful with how I phrase things to anyone when I do a reading. But when I'm drinking and stuff, like I don't care, right? Like not in a mean way. It's just like I'll say what I have to say instead of me thinking in my head, should I say it? Should I not say it? So the readings sometimes become, I think, more direct, more like, and that could be perceived good or bad, I think. Because like sometimes if you're more direct with certain people, they hate that. Like they want it to be a little bit more, I guess, cushier if you're going to say something intense following what you're saying. So when I'm drinking, I think more information I say because I don't filter it like in my head first before saying it. So like that's why when I'm drinking or going out with like friends or whatever, I try my best not to like even think about that. But it's tough because people now will, like when I'm at a bar, will come up to me and they'll be like, hey, like you're that kid. Is there anyone around me? And I don't want to be that guy that's like, you're whoever's here. And then something so serious comes up in a bar where it can either trigger them to like want to hit me in the face or like whatever, because it's so personal. So I will say for that long answer, which I apologize for, is yes, it makes it a little bit more heightened because I just don't have a filter at that point. So I'm just
but your gift itself doesn't become stronger. Like you don't see more things, or it doesn't become like that. It's just your personal sensor changes a bit, but like it doesn't affect the actual gift.
Yeah, it's more of like a personal sensor, I guess. I mean, it gets a little bit stronger, like because like you're just more relaxed, right? Like the stakes, like your body, like when you do a reading, you have to be like, the hardest part about doing a reading is clearing out your head. Like you can't have any thoughts in your head, because if you do, the reading always goes towards what you're thinking. So like if you're having a relationship problem, the reading will then be heavy into like the person's relationship. And you're like, who cares? Like, unless it's important. But clearing out your head when you're doing it is the best. So like when you're drinking, obviously you're not thinking sometimes so much. So your head gets very clear. So then all those messages just start pouring in more. And, that's when you have to be careful.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. That's why I encourage people that are mediums, try not to drink and do a reading. Like just try your
don't
best.
Drink in medium.
Yeah, don't drink in medium. Don't do it. Like,
it's funny.
Yeah, it's awesome. But, I know I already gave you a reading before, but I could give you like a quick one if you want. So
I'm sure if you want to, we could jump in for something quick to see if something unique comes up.
Yeah, I figured I would just try to give you something. You know, how do I stare off? So I don't want to be like, what the heck is this kid looking at again? Okay, your father's here. He's the one with the W name, correct?
Yep.
I have to ask you this because he's joking around with you with this. Listen, I know everyone goes to college. I get that. I even went to college too. Were you going to do anything in the science field in college? Like, were you going to college to be like science?
Yeah, I wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah, because he keeps clinking like beakers in front of me. And just so you know, I'm not a science person at all. He's just saying how smart you are is what he keeps saying. And like how if the acting didn't work out when whatever, he's saying you had your brain. And he's making a joke saying that's more than most is what he keeps saying. That's way more than most. Before he passed, did he have anything that went with his throat?
Yeah, he had the... which I alluded to before, he had this thing called myasthenia gravis, where like the throat muscles didn't work properly.
Yeah, because he just keeps smiling, saying like to me that, which I give a lot of credit to your father about, is taking everything on the chin. Is what he keeps saying to me. Like he was a good sport about a lot of it. But what he's also saying to me too is it's like an easygoing mind, like with certain people that can just go with the flow. And he's saying that that's kind of what he was trying to do in the situation, because the throat situation, if I'm not mistaken from what he's saying, that's not what it originated. Like it wasn't originated in his throat. Like he had a prior issue.
No, it started within the lungs. It started with a cancer.
Because I was going to say, because like he's saying
built into a throat thing.
Okay, yeah, because he's saying like this is where it ended, but there's a prior issue. I have to tell you, for someone who's a pretty straightforward person, he comes through, and I'm saying this because he's laughing about this. Like a hippie mindset. Yeah. Like you're like a flower child. You go with the wind, like nothing bad. Like my aunt was like that, like a flower child. He keeps smiling because the way that he's coming across to me, he is a tough person, but he's also smiling, saying that his past was more of like a flower child type of past. Like, or he not like that, but more so like going with the flow, going with the wind, like whatever the wind takes him, he'll adapt. He's also saying this to me too. When he passed, were you doing a project from what I remember? Because he keeps saying that.
I was doing The Rookie. Was
your final conversation through like FaceTime or like through like a phone? Really?
We FaceTimed a lot. The final conversation might have been actually via FaceTime.
Well, he keeps putting
it was all during COVID. I remember being at his house. He was putting a screen up.
Yeah, well, he keeps putting a screen in your face, like he keeps tapping the phone, and he's saying, and like why he's saying that is because he's saying with the circumstances that were given, which now makes sense about the COVID time. If it was during COVID, then it would have been difficult to see someone. But he keeps saying that everything was done through the phone, like because of like outside circumstances. So I didn't know when he passed, if it was during COVID time.
Yeah, a lot of stuff was. I mean, I would still see him quite a bit in the hospitals and stuff, but a lot was done with the phone as well. And then when he got really sick, I remember being there maybe a day before, 2 days before he passed, or a day maybe. And then I remember getting the call that he passed overnight. I think I did see him in person at the very end, but he was already starting to really be in and out, like in hospice care, essentially at home.
Yeah, no, he's just saying that his passing was as peaceful as it could get. And like, I think that's quite remarkable in a sense. And what I mean by that is passing in your sleep, to me, is probably the most peaceful way someone can go. Even though it was quite a battle, if I'm being honest, from what he's showing to me, because it seems like it was a battle that he had to fight. His actual crossing was as peaceful, and he's just happy, and he keeps smiling, and he keeps saying he's young, because he keeps talking about his appearance, and like that's important, his appearance. So he keeps saying like it's one of those where it's like, don't remember him before he passed, just remember him when he was young. because that's what he keeps talking to me about, is the appearance side of things. And what he's also saying too, and I have to give him credit where credit is due with a lot, before things got horrible, like with the hospice care and stuff, he seems to have been with it mentally, like before, like he wasn't like gone mentally, like, because he keeps saying he was always up to date with what you were doing, like that. He keeps saying he was like, you know, he was your biggest fan, is what he keeps saying to me. He keeps saying he was your biggest fan, cheerleader, like he supported everything you did. And I'm sure he told you this, but the role that you're doing right now, amongst all the roles that you've done, he keeps clapping for you, saying like it's going to be like leading to huge and different opportunities, is what he keeps talking about, because of how well you're doing. He's just so impressed with how you like evolved, is what he keeps saying. And then also the biggest thing too is you being a father. He just loves watching it from a different angle. It's just a different angle, because he's saying that a big thing for you, and it's interesting that we brought this up, is like work-life balance is what he keeps talking to me about, and how well you are, like I mentioned before, turning that switch off and being a parent. Because he's smiling and he's saying, I'm assuming just like just like I know people that sometimes maybe are not the best parents because they're focused on different things. He's saying he's so proud of the parent that you are. He's taking credit for it. He's smiling and taking credit for it. So he's joking about it. Like he's just joking about it. And I know I read you before, so I want to give you a little something different. So I just want to say thank you. No, I appreciate that. And thank you for trusting me to do this. I always tell people, like, it's a big thing to have someone just do a reading.
I appreciate it, man. It's always special. And I had a feeling he'd come through again. He comes through. The last times I've done this, he tends to always come through, and he's that kind of personality. So it's very nice to know that he's out there watching over all of us and proud. It definitely feels good.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. A lot of fun. Appreciate all of it. It's great talking to you as always. Fascinating. We'll do part 2s on both of our podcasts, because I can talk to you for hours about this stuff. It's great, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on, Eric. It means a lot to me, and for you to trust me to do this. And guys, go check out his rum, Palm Republic Rum. But I want to jump into a case I've been working on since 2017. It's an infamous case that a lot of people know. It's the Long Island serial killer. And now for the people who don't know, there's been murders that are happening at Gilligo Beach on Long Island from the 1990s to 2011. And they found numerous bodies, probably close to 10 to 11 that have been recorded publicly. The first set of bodies were 4, and they're all women. But the last body that they found that's public knowledge is a trans woman with their child. And that's horrible. And that's insane. So just so you guys know, I've been contacted since 2017, 2018 to do, readings and to help, because at that point they didn't know who it was or what's going on. And there's so many different avenues in this case. So imagine this, that I'm eating dinner with my parents, because this is exactly how it happened. I'm eating dinner with my parents and I get a random phone call on my phone. And typically, I promise you guys, I am polite at dinner. I don't answer my phone. I answered this, and it was the lead task force FBI agent who was on this case. And I was recommended to him, but he also heard of me through reading people that he knows personally. So he basically tells me to sit down, because he's like, I want to get your full undivided attention. And I walked away from dinner, sat in a separate room, and he goes, I have 10 minutes with you. Tell me what you got. So I started talking about, just so you guys know, police corruption. I started talking about all these different things, but then I started bringing up an unusual R-sounding name. And this is back in 2017, 2018, and I didn't really know what it was. And he just chuckled, laughed, and goes, all right, thank you. Now, for someone like me, I'm like, what the heck just happened? So years go by, and it just so happened that the task force was closed, and then a new district attorney came in on Long Island and reopened the case. So when that happened, I got pulled in from the same lead task force who retired from the FBI, but connected me to other people that are currently working. Still same stuff coming through, right? Still same stuff coming through, except there was more than just 11 bodies that I was seeing. Another couple years go by, right? And I'm talking here and there to them. I'm not consistently working every week on it. And I always try to be honest with everyone. I'm the last person they call. I'm never the first. all of a sudden I get a text message like early in the morning saying they made the arrest. It's Rex Heuermann. Like, that's our guy. I wake up, have all these texts from all these different like detectives, like, you know, saying like, we did it. And it turns out that this case, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's more bodies to be, you know, announced. Some have been announced. And I'm telling you guys, like, you are definitely going to want to stay up to date with this. Like, this is a case that's going to be one of the biggest cases, I think, of like, you know, my lifetime potentially. And I don't think you guys are going to want to miss these updates. Oh my God, guys, I have such a busy week coming up. I'm planning a wedding. It's coming up in late September. And I feel like time is just going so fast and I can't keep up. I feel like I'm always falling behind. You know, I just feel like I want to click pause sometimes so I can just take a breath. But I'm so excited, and I want to say thank you so much for joining another week with me here on Connect with Jonathan Mark. And guys, I'm doing a fan reading next week. And if you want to be one of those, all you have to do is follow my Instagram at Jonathan Mark Medium and just send me a DM. I'm telling you, it's that easy. We're going to be scrolling and picking at random. All right, guys, I'll see you next week.